Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Today, I want to do a video talking about how real it will feel along the journey. Now, totally, utterly, convincingly real, okay? That is key to remember. It's going to feel so real where you can't tell the difference between OCD or not, all right? As real as it can possibly get. Now, if I talk about the intrusiveness of it, so the intrusive thoughts, the intrusive urges, the intrusive sensations, okay? Those all play a part, they all contribute to the realness factor. Now, if OCD didn't feel real, it wouldn't be the disorder that it is, right? Because we could all say, that's OCD, move on, don't worry about it, you know? View it like a cloud. It's OCD, get on with it, right? But when we're so consumed by the guilt and the realness cycle, okay, when we're constantly trying to work out whether it's real or not, that's how real it feels, right? The reason you're ruminating about it, if it's real, the reason you're so scared, the reason it's so locked on in that internal locked up state that you find yourself in is because of the realness of it, right? Let me give you some examples. Let's talk about intrusive urges. So with POCD, when I was really stuck with POCD, an example of an intrusive urge would be walking along the street, and let's say a child is walking along the street, okay? I might have an urge to maybe push that child, to touch that child, to barge past them, to look at them, right? To say something, to shout something, okay? All these urges that would be going on. So the compulsive avoidance, the compulsion that I did would be to cross the road or to walk exaggeratedly around them, right? I'm sure you can relate to that. So let's say walking along a path and, you know, you take a step out into the road to walk around them to get that 100% certainty that you won't act on the intrusive urge, okay? That's how real it feels. Now, in that moment, you can't try and work out whether it's real or not, okay? That's the nature of the disorder. It's going to make it feel as real as it can get, all right? So my advice there when that happens is to not do the compulsion. And that's going to come with discomfort. Of course it is. You know, that's going to bring panic. That's going to bring anxiety, panic attacks, okay? What does this mean about me? Is that real? Do I want that? What's the intentions? That's what it's going to do, okay? But the main thing you can do there to help yourself towards long-term recovery is to not give in to that compulsion. You know, keep walking in a straight line. Don't cross the road, okay? Don't, because when you do the compulsion, you're giving OCD the keys to your life. Look at it that way, right? You're giving OCD the reins to your life. You're letting OCD call the shots, okay? We need to start taking back that grip that OCD has on our life. Let me give you a harm OCD example of an intrusive urge. Let's say you're in the kitchen. This happened a lot with me. In the kitchen, right? You might be cutting something. Let's say you're chopping veg, all right? And all of a sudden, you've got this knife in your hand, and the overwhelming intrusive urge that can take over, oh my God, what if I stab my partner with this knife, right? And that urge can feel so utterly convincingly real, where in that moment, it feels like you're going to do it, you know? It feels like that's going to happen. It feels inevitable, right? That's how real it feels, okay? But when we become aware of how OCD operates and we know what that's going to do, we know how real that feels, we know what it's going to chuck in, we know the times it's going to chuck in the urges, we know the times it's going to chuck in the intrusive thoughts and the sensations, all right? That's all part of understanding how OCD operates. But same principles apply, is to not do the compulsion. You've got to think long-term recovery, okay? Because when you do the compulsion, you're falling into a safety comfort trap, right? And that safety comfort trap would be to put the knife down, run out the kitchen and just sit on the couch and let your partner crack on with it, okay? Because it's going to feel very uncomfortable. It's going to feel very unsafe, right? And that's what OCD does. And this is why we have to start breaking free, because before you know it, OCD will call the shots to all parts of your life. The mental prison that you live in of avoidance, the restrictions that OCD sets on your life will become smaller and tighter and more restricted, right? Now, when we do that avoidance, we're playing into that. We're making the mental prison, the mental circle that we live in with avoidance and compulsions, that's gradually getting smaller and smaller and smaller until you become virtually housebound, like I was. I was pretty much housebound. All right. Intrusive urges around cheating OCD, something that I had a lot. I had a lot of the guilt-related themes. Really chronic, locked up guilt, felt like nothing else mattered. Felt like, what's the point? Someone could give me £1 million, it felt like it wouldn't matter. I was that consumed with guilt. So cheating OCD, right? Obviously you're with a partner. Now, let's say you're talking to someone of the opposite sex, and the realness can feel incredibly real that you might be attracted to this person. Okay, so those OCD sufferers will try and work out whether we're attracted or not. Well, that's a complete dead end, because you have to take the risk, because you might be attracted to them, right? Or you might not be. You can't try and work it out, because OCD would just doubt. You can have 99% certainty that you're not attracted to this person, but OCD would chuck in 1%, and that's it, off down the spiral that you go. So you have to take the risk that you might be attracted to this person. And this is why we lean into the worst case scenario. But anyway, the intrusive urge may be to suddenly lean in and kiss this person, or lean in and cuddle this person, okay? Suddenly shout something or ask for their number completely randomly out of the blue, Suddenly ask them on a date, ask them to dance. All these things you can class as cheating if you wish, right? Now that urge can feel very intense. It can feel like, let's say if your partner's not there, for example, and you're out on a social event, whether that be with work or just with other friends or whatever. Now you could be speaking to someone of the opposite sex or even the same sex. And let's say you're chatting to them, and even looking at them in the eye can feel like you're cheating, right? That's how real that can feel. And then what I would then do with the avoidance and the compulsion would be then to go home or to not even look at someone in the eye, not even speak to them, because I was so scared I'd end up kissing them, end up dancing with them, right? End up cuddling them, right? All these things that we do. So that urge, when you're talking to someone at the bar, you could just be completely talking to a friend, right? But OCD can go, no, you're attracted to this person. And it could be like, ask him out on a date, ask him out on a date, ask him out on a date, kiss him, hug him, right? That's how real that urge can feel, completely booming away in the background, okay? But it's so important that we don't do the compulsion in that moment, that we don't do the avoidance in that moment. It's so important. We've got to think of long-term recovery. Like I've said before, when we do the compulsion, when we do the avoidance, we're giving the keys back to OCD. All right, think of it like that. Hit and run, driving OCD, whatever you want to call it. I had that a lot, right? And the intrusive urges felt very, very real, incredibly real, to a point where I avoided driving. I'd be driving along the street, and I'd have an intense, intrusive urge to suddenly veer my car off into the barrier, into a pedestrian, into a cyclist, into a traffic light. That urge was like, oh my God, just completely took me off my feet, right? So I was so scared of that urge, I'd then avoid driving. I'd spend the whole time driving, looking in the rearview mirror just in case I didn't hit someone. At some point, some compulsions that I did, I'd be doing U-turns at the nearest opportunity, look, and then going all the way back down and checking I didn't hit someone, checking I didn't hit a cyclist, checking I didn't hit the wall, checking I didn't hit the curb. There's no logical sense to it, but there's no logic to how OCD works. All right, but yet again, in that moment, the most important thing is to not looking in the rearview mirror compulsively, not doing the U-turn, right? Get out there and driving. Get out on the motorway. Get out driving. It's so easy to avoid driving, get on public transport. I'm gonna get the bus now because I'm so scared of driving. Or I'm just gonna avoid driving, not leave my house. Right? People always look for ways where they can not drive, not get in the car, because they're so scared of those intrusive urges at that time. Okay? Yet again, When we do that, when we avoid, when we do those subtle compulsions, we're giving those keys, in this example, we're giving the car keys back to OCD, right? We're giving our freedom away. You might as well just be chucking freedom in the bin, flushing it down the toilet. Don't want any part of freedom. I'm going to let OCD call the shots of my life. We don't want that, right? When we look back at our life, we don't want to go, you know what? I'm really glad I gave OCD all the shots of my life. I'm really glad I avoided that. I'm really proud I did that. You ain't going to be saying that, right? You'd be looking back and going, fuck, look how much I avoided. I avoided going on a holiday. I avoided driving to that place. I avoided seeing family members. I avoided spending time with partners. I avoided seeing friends because I was so scared of OCD and all the urges, right? So we have to start going towards the worst case scenario. We have to start, we have to go into the storm, into the eye of the storm, as we often talk about on this channel, because you can't tiptoe around for recovery. You can't beat around the bush. Sometimes you have to just go straight into it, okay? And when it feels that real, you can't just try and work it out, okay? I spent years trying to work it out to no avail. I had to just take that leap, take that jump out of my comfort zone and into the unknown, into the confusion. And it's going to feel damn scary. It's going to feel damn confusing, right? That's how real it feels. But we have to start going into that uncertainty, taking those risks, okay? Otherwise, OCD will continue to call all the shots to our life. Let's talk about intrusive sensations, okay? Something that I had a lot. The false attractions, the groinal responses. All these things, they have to be worn in the moment. The hyper-awareness. Very scared of a sensation at unwanted time. Fears of erections at unwanted times. Things like that. The last thing that you want, let's say you're taking part in sexual intimacy and you're like, oh my God, I wouldn't want to groin a response now, right? I don't want this moment ruined. Let's say you're on a build up towards a holiday, something you've been really looking forward to, something that you've spent a lot of money on. Let's say you've got an important life event, a job interview, or an important social occasion with family and friends, right? Something that you're so desperate for not to be ruined. And you're probably thinking, the last thing I want now is a groinal response, right? The last thing I want now is to be constantly focused and hyper-aware on all my sensations, right? Now, if you think like that, that's when you'll be watching it like a hawk, right? You will be monitoring how you're feeling 24/7. Now, if you said to yourself, with OCD, I do not want a groinal response at this time, then that is like waving a red flag to a bull, okay? And that's what OCD would do. It would chuck in a groinal response then. That's what it's going to do. That's the nature of the disorder. Okay? So we have to change our relationship around how we perceive those things, right? Because often we're so scared of an intrusive urge. We're so scared of an intrusive sensation. We then fear it, okay? And it's how we talk about it. If you're saying, I can't stand that would be unbearable if I had an intrusive urge right now. I couldn't possibly stand having an intrusive sensation right now, right? Instead, you could go, look, I really don't want that, and I prefer that not to be there, but if it is, so what? I can stand that. It is bearable, right? I don't want it, but I certainly don't need it not being there, okay? So you're changing the rigid black and white unhealthy demand into a healthy, more flexible preference, okay? And that's a first big step that you can do towards breaking down the rigidity we hold, the relationship we hold around urges, sensations, okay? And that is why we're so scared of it. Yes, they're not comfortable. Yes, you don't want them, okay? But saying things like, they are the worst thing in the world, they're terrible, I hate it, I hate my life, that makes it a whole lot worse, okay? So it's our wording and our verbiage that we use around these things, okay? Something that's very important. I'll give you a recent example before I go on too long with this video. Let me give you another recent example of how an intrusive urge or a sensation can come in. I had one with harm OCD, completely out of the blue. I was out on a run, right? And I was road running, so outside, outdoors. And this man was climbing up a ladder, right? And all of a sudden, the intense pull, the overwhelming pull, the urge that came in was to push this man off a ladder, right? Now that 5 years ago would have absolutely terrified me. You know, that would have stopped me in my tracks. I would have stopped what I was doing. I would stop running and just make sure that person didn't fall off the ladder. I'd run to the opposite side of the road, go ridiculously so far around the ladder to make sure 100% I could push this person off, right? We go over that, the safety net. When you think of it like that, like a safety net would be so large, it just gets absolutely ridiculous, right? I could be in 100 miles away and it'd be like, no, you're not far away enough, right? Just even having the thought, it could feel like, because you had the thought, that means the person fell off the ladder. That's how it can be, right? There's no logic to it towards OCD. Okay, so I go back to that example. Now, when that happened, I just carried on running, right? I go, oh, there we go. There's OCD, there's an urge. And that, I'd say within about 10 seconds, that was then gone because I didn't engage with that, all right? If I did the compulsions, like even being recovered, if I started doing compulsions again, I could easily go back into an OCD cycle, right? So if I suddenly stopped what I was doing and spent the whole time looking around at that person on the ladder, or checking, or asking the person, or shouting out, going, are you okay up there? You know, all these things that I would have done when I was really suffering, when I was really stuck, right? That would have completely thrown me off track. That would have terrified me. And then I'd have avoided running. I'd avoided road running. I'd have then signed up for the gym and only ran on the treadmill. And you see how OCD can just make your life more and more restricted because of things like that. That's just a recent example. Okay, so when that happens, when you get all these intrusive urges at those times, the example that I gave the person on the ladder, when you're driving and you get the urge to suddenly push or suddenly drive your car off into the barrier, when you walk along the street and you suddenly get the urge to suddenly touch someone or push someone, okay? When those things happen, you don't try and work it all out, okay? We have to wear that. A lot of that has to be worn, and we have to just continue doing what we're doing and not give in to the compulsion at that time. Because when we do that, you're giving OCD power. You're fueling the fire, okay? Look at it like that. All right, and your future self really is thanking you, all right? Not doing these compulsions. And that's going to feel uncomfortable, of course it is. But when we don't do that, we're giving ourselves the best chance towards long-term recovery. If you have liked this video, please leave a like. If you're interested in our one-to-one services, with coaching calls, webinar services, WhatsApp groups, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com, or I think there might be a WhatsApp link to the description of this video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then please do so, and any comments are certainly much appreciated. Anyway, you take care. It was lovely speaking to you, and I'll speak again. Bye-bye.